All right, welcome back to the Real Media Observer, observing the media in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and me. Yes, in Ireland, apparently, they're admitting that the sanctions against Russia aren't working, according to one publication there. This from the News and Star, the Waterford News and Star. EU sanctions on Russia to date not working, says Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Coveney. He admits that the U.S. sanctions, or the UN sanctions, pretty much the same thing, against Russia were not working, which was why Ireland would be supporting a fifth package of sanctions in the coming days. You know, folks, here's a parallel. The sanctions and booster shots. Okay, sorry. Because if I go any further with that, I'm going to get in trouble. But do you see where that goes? Do you see, oh, well, this didn't really work, so here, let's do another one. So a fifth package of sanctions coming soon, according to this foreign affairs guy in Ireland. Does anybody recall seeing online the last couple of days how they've actually put sanctions on Vladimir Putin's daughters somehow? They've sanctioned his kids. Now, does anybody have a brain out there? Does anybody think to themselves, how are they going to sanction? Wouldn't they obviously benefit from their father's status as the president of the country? I mean, what are you going to do? How are you sanctioning his daughters? I mean, this is just crazy crap. And again, if you look up on Yahoo News, which I wasn't going to do, but I'm going to do it in real time here. Sanctions on Putin's daughters. Okay. And it's amazing. This is incomprehensible. Like, if we can't get, we're going to convince, here it is. EU imposes sanctions on Putin's daughters. Incredible. All right. The European Union has imposed sanctions on two adult daughters of Russian President Vladimir Putin as part of a new package of measures targeting Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, according to EU officials. The EU included Maria and Katerina. Now, those are the two first names. They have different last names, and they're hard to pronounce, so I'm not even going to try it. In its updated list of individuals facing an assets freeze and travel ban. The two EU officials from different EU member countries spoke on the condition of anonymity to the Associated Press because the updated list of sanctions has not been published yet. Oh, so I guess they weren't supposed to know about this, right? The new move from the European bloc follows a similar move 2 days earlier by the United States. In the wake of evidence of torture and killings emerging from war zones outside Kiev, supposedly, the EU decided to impose a fifth package of measures, which relates to the other article I had started. So yes, if the fourth package didn't work, then the fifth one is going to work. If the fourth dose didn't do the trick, then the fifth dose will do the trick, right? And we'll keep on. Here's the breaking news story for everybody, and it doesn't take much to figure this out. Russia does not need us. Russia does not need the EU. Russia doesn't care about the sanctions. Russia is a self-sustaining country. See, they're operating in this zone where they think, well, everybody is part of the global order. Everybody is in on this. And if Russia decides they don't want to be in on this, then they're going to be punished. The problem is these EU countries are very weak, as is the United States right now, who is calling the shots. The US is pretty much doing all of the heavy lifting. And the rhetoric, people say, well, Biden misspoke. Biden, shouldn't have said that he wanted to take out Putin and so forth. He doubled and tripled down on it. And there have been people within the government, including Lindsey Graham and others, who don't have a brain, who continue to call for Putin to be removed. Yeah, that's good diplomacy. And by the way, speaking of diplomacy, diplomacy isn't being done at all. Instead, we're going to sanction Putin's daughters, as if Vladimir couldn't get some money to his two daughters if they needed it. Or, gee, let's move my daughters to a place of safety and comfort and luxury. Meanwhile, they think here in the West that they've done such an amazing thing by targeting the kids of Vladimir Putin. This is, folks, this is like Jerry Springer news. You know, it just is. It's like stuff that grown-ups don't do to solve problems. They don't do it. Yes, maybe you punish the kids, and maybe you do something to change, you know, the kids. In this case, the kids didn't technically do anything wrong, other than they were the victim of being Vlad's kids. So you're punishing the kids to get to the father, which is completely useless, but it sounds good in the media. It sounds really entertaining, like, oh, we're showing them now. We're really gonna hit them where it hurts. And they're admitting. See, and this is the weird thing about Western news. You read it and you're like, all right, so are they admitting that the sanctions aren't really doing anything? They just keep doing it over and over again, and they're hoping for a different result. Isn't that like the definition of insanity? And maybe we should have a real foreign policy that includes diplomacy. Huh? Maybe. I mean, we're destroying the United States right now because of where we are on this. We're destroying Europe. We're destroying the third world, places in Africa that depend on wheat and fertilizer and the things that actually will help people in those areas, not to live, you know, a first world existence, but to just live from day to day. I mean, this is a country that lacks, you know, clean drinking water, and we're going to sanction all of the countries, including and especially Russia, because everybody else will fall victim to these sanctions via proxy. So when you're sanctioning Russia, you're sanctioning Germany. Germany, you're sanctioning yourself. France, you're putting sanctions on yourself. All of these countries, Ireland, we're going to run another one up the flagpole, and this time it'll work. In the meantime, gee, inflation keeps going up. It's Putin's inflation. No, it's the EU's inflation. It's Joe Biden's inflation. It's really stupid monetary policy. It's spending money we don't have and just printing it. And of course, you're devaluing the currency. It's, gee, we've got nothing to replace the oil that we once had 2 years ago, whether you like, again, any president could figure this out. Donald Trump was in office and he said, gee, if we make our own stuff, all right, and we can manufacture it and then we can sell it, right? We can make money on it for the country, and we'll have a great supply to help people, you know, in their pursuit of happiness. Like if I want to go drive somewhere, now I got to really think about this. You know, do I want to take that trip? Well, maybe not. I mean, because I'm going to be spending a lot to get from point A to point B and then back to point A again. So maybe I'll rethink that trip, right? But see, politicians, they don't care. They do not care about the common man, the common woman, people that make this country and basically the entire planet work. This is a classist attitude. This is, well, we've got ours, and we're just going to keep setting policy that helps us. I mean, we're in control here. They're not in control. And there's a reason for that, because we're smarter than them. They need to serve us. Well, we can't even do the serving of the elites anymore because they've crippled the economy so much, and they continue to do it. And they think by just throwing all these restrictions onto Russia, a self-sufficient country, not a third world country. And that's their misplay here. That is where they've basically overplayed their hand. And they've said, well, we're just going to sanction Russia, and that's going to fix the problem for everybody. And Putin will stop doing. He pulled back from Kiev, and then what did they do? They accused them of going in there and doing all these horrendous war crimes after. See, here's a similarity to like what happened on January 6th. So January 6th was telegraphed. Everybody knew that event was planned for weeks. And I remember going, you know what? This to me looks like a trap. It looks like a setup. He's already done this. I mean, Trump had at least one other rally, maybe two, I can't remember. But then he was having this, like, as a last gasp effort to convince people. And that was the day of the vote. And it backfired. And my guess is it was all planned. It was all staged. It was choreographed. Feds were there. The feds did what the feds have been doing for a very long time. And this Ukraine thing reeks of the same type of MO, because Russia says, we're gonna pull back here so we can negotiate with you guys. That's what they said. They wanted diplomacy. Nobody else is calling for diplomacy. Russia's calling for diplomacy, saying, you know what, we've been kicking your ass pretty good here. We've been denazifying and demilitarizing. And so we're gonna pull back here in good faith to show you that we'll negotiate with you. And then what does the West do? The West sets this up to make it look like Russia, after they had already pulled out, caused a humanitarian crisis and committed war crimes. See how that works? And all these defendants from J6, right? They're all people who either were there, some of them entered the building, some of them were just on the premises, and they're being framed for something, number one, that wasn't as bad as, you know, the media has made it out to be for the past 2 years. But here, this kind of setup to me just looks like the same kind of J6 thing. And this is used all over the place, create the chaos. And then if Russia goes on the ground and has reporters and they say, no, I don't see any bodies, I don't see any carnage here, I don't know what they're saying. Maybe they took photographs of something else, posted it. I mean, the West has no idea what they're looking at half the time. We've already figured out in a couple of instances, I think they posted clips from a video game, which were supposed to be showing how Russians were targeting civilians and so forth. Look, do I think Russia is completely innocent, like they haven't done one thing wrong in this entire event? Of course, they've probably done some stuff wrong. But now you've got accusations, too, that Ukrainians are committing war crimes on Russian POWs. So I would take that into consideration. Even the Western media in some places, I think the New York Times or the Washington Post, actually had to do a story about Azov. They had to do it because it's kind of hard. You see Azov and, you know, Nazis, and those two things kind of go together. So, you know, the truth, right, isn't that far away. It's actually very easy. It's also easy to connect the dots when it comes to what happened in Donbass and what's still apparently going on there. I mean, those people right now, the ones that are still there, they're under severe threat because these people who remain in the eastern part, who are losing, who are getting, again, their butts kicked, they're going to take it out on the people in the Donbass because those people, they can't shoot back. So it's very cowardly and very sickening. And the narrative is completely misplaced. It's, hey, we're going to sanction Putin's daughters and we're going to keep the sanctions going. We're going to do a 5th round and maybe a 6th round, and we'll go to Walgreens and you can get, you know, a booster and another booster. I mean, the narratives I thought were very different when we went from, you know, a war on a pathogen to a war on the Russians. Pathogens and Russians almost like rhymes a little bit there. But we need this cause. For some reason, we need a chaotic cause, and we need brains all over the world to be fried and to be tired and to be stressed and to feel like you've been waterboarded constantly for months and months, because that's what it is. The propaganda, I mean, it's not a physical abuse, but it's a mental abuse, and it's real. You know, for those at certain, you know, rock magazine publications who don't think psychology is a thing, because they have a narrative to preserve. But, you know, I'm sure most of them studied Sigmund Freud, at least a little bit in college. And if they're not buying into the psychology of all this, then they're just doing it on purpose because they want their, you know, they want their nice house and their big paycheck, and they don't want to be, a leper around all of their neoliberal friends. That's what this is all about. Once someone realizes what your opinion is about something, and I realized this recently, they go, "Oh, you're one of those, huh? You're one of those? Yeah, you don't believe in science, huh? Ooh, yeah, that's me. Yeah, just sign me up for that." And I just, you know what? You embrace it because you get black pilled after a while. I'm not left or right. I'm just right versus wrong at this stage, okay? And I'm just like a whole diverse group of beliefs, and it boils down to leave me alone, anti-authoritarianism for sure, libertarianism on a lot of things. There are a couple of progressive concepts, political ideas that I could embrace depending on how things are administered and who's in charge of it and who's not in charge of it. Okay, but for the most part, anyone who wants centralized control of anything scares the crap out of me. And the EU should scare the crap out of everybody who's been following this. And if the EU wants to impose more sanctions on Putin, right, it's only going to hurt the people who live in those EU countries. So this is why this is completely upside down and crazy, 180-degree-ism, as I like to say. And there's really no end in sight. This is the Western foreign policy. This is the policy of Dick Cheney and Eric Swalwell and who knows who else. I mean, people who you would think aren't going to be down for this, they kind of just go along with it because they think, hey, this is too controversial. If I say something positive about Russia or Putin, it's the end of my career. At least in the media, it is. I don't think it's the end of your career when it comes to the population in general. But hey, why take a chance, right? Why say something too controversial when you can just go along to get along and get on all those Fox News shows and spew all this nonsense? And people are like, yeah, I got my little flag and I'm waving it. Ukraine, where's Ukraine on this map? It's near Russia, I think. Yeah, good one. Good job. Yeah, you're getting much closer to where Ukraine is. Yes, it's near Russia. You're doing great. So in any event, sanctions on Russia, they're not working. Just again, I know this is counterintuitive to the rest. It's like all the swimmers, and I'm swimming the other way, and I'm crashing into everybody. And I'm noticing there are even people in the media who I thought I could watch on this issue, and I have to just I can't believe they're just going to blindly support this. But most of the people that I watch, the people who are either like what I would call old school classical liberal progressives and true libertarians and some conservatives who've kind of moved away from the old time, Mitt Romney, George H.W. Bush philosophy. I can listen to some of those people. I always worry, though, that they're kind of trying to play both sides of it, that they're still kind of like, okay, Putin just bad, not going to ask any other questions. Yes, we got to go down and do what we need to do here and fix this problem. But the problem isn't where they think it is. That's the big problem. The problem is mostly here in the United States. And some of these people have to finally come to terms with that and stop pretending that, we're the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We may have been at one time, but we are not anymore. And we've been in decline for decades. And these institutions that we used to lift up and praise, they're all in meltdown. They're all failing. Education is failing. Healthcare is failing. You can go, I don't have time in this video. That'll be another video. But in any event, people, again, how are sanctions going to end this? Sanctions are only going to make things worse. Sanctions will prolong this. And again, all of that is designed to make the military-industrial complex, including all of these military hardware companies, people who build tanks and bombs and all that, all of those people are going to be very happy for a very long time as they rake in the revenue. All right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Patreon, $1 a month, $2 a month if you want to join up there. That'll support this channel and my music-related channel, which is going pretty well these days. But, the revenue stream is always a roller coaster, and I depend on people like you to chip in maybe $1 a month here and there to help me out. All right, people, that's it. See you soon.